How do you do?
Good, how are you?
They go way back to the back of it and I can't reach them. Oh. I gotta get longer arms.
Morning.
Susie, there was 4, so I'll do them.
I sure am.
Yeah, I've done enough of it.
On that truck?
No worries, no.
I was all excited.
I know,
I was like, wait a minute, I thought you quit again. He's like, yeah, I know. He stopped to grab my drink.
Like, no tell. Doug told me they're kind of.
Alright. I told him, you're not helpful.
No, I see Gary. She'll pick up. Good morning. I hope John knows what's going on.
It's got Vicks on.
I smoked it too.
No, it's essential oils.
So when I left the other night after that truck meeting,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely essential oils.
Yeah, I'm one of those.
Homeopathic.
Yeah, for a lot of stuff. I mean, not my caffeine, obviously.
Monday night, all day yesterday. And other than one guy texting me back saying, nobody got back to me.
Yes. Yes, I do. Got things. Hey, hi.
Hey.
How you doing, Scott?
Good. I didn't check the box.
I got it.
Why is there no school Friday?
There's no school Friday.
No, not for over here.
We have,
When do you guys have your Valentine's Day parties then?
tomorrow.
Oh.
Yeah. So like,
Can't miss it.
We're not missing that.
No.
Yeah, I got mine ready. Teacher PD reading training, the reading law is out, so reading training on Friday.
See, they gotta figure out a way to ban cell phones in the school. Just got passed.
I saw that.
It's not bad, I don't think.
Most of the people I know have like those shoe pockets on their door.
Yeah, you know
And
what?
they put it in there.
My son has that at his school as well, but he's pretty readily available all day long, so.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about that too much at ours, but.
Yeah, they gotta have a policy on how they control it.
They just can't have them in the classrooms, right?
I think they
their
can,
lockers.
I think they can be for emergencies and stuff like that, but I think they have to have like some plan in place to not affect the learning.
Yeah, they should just put them up.
They can still be used for school purposes,
Yeah.
when they are allowed.
Okay, this call is morning in order.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the agenda.
Also move to approve the agenda February 11th, 2026 fiscal budget, 2026-27 fiscal budget work session.
All in favor? Against? Motion carried. Public comment.
Karen Pacheco, Village of Metamora. So I would love to hear the compelling reason why you guys do your budget workshops as a special meeting with very little notice. Because I know you were like, oh, I see Karen's here when you walked in. I heard you. Yes, even though you tried to hide this meeting from the public, I am here because I use the law to compel Sue to send me notices of meetings and agendas and the materials. Because you do try to hide it. When you go to the MTA meeting next week, which I also know about, not from coming here to these meetings, which by the way, you didn't even mention this meeting on Monday when I was here, which is very surprising because they are usually announced, actually they're usually set in December. Most townships set their meetings and even put them on the website for their budget workshops. When you go to the MTA meeting and you talk to folks, ask them how many of them have their budget workshop as a special meeting with very little notice to the public. Right? Because this is our township. This isn't Dave Best Township. This isn't the 5 of your township. This is our township and you are allotting our money. So I have some questions for you as you go through the budget. You have a very, very high legal allotment of $100,000. I'm not seeing that on any other townships. I'd love to know more about that. Road maintenance numbers changed a lot from last year to this year. Because I actually have the budgets on my hard drive, unlike most of the public who would have to ask you for them. But I was able to overnight find out these things and compare them. And then long care is $6,000. Is that part of what pays John Clark or not? And you know, maybe the notice was on the door when I was here Monday on the window out there. I don't know. It was very cold, so I wasn't going to stand there. But it's not 1836 anymore. And again, you have a duty to the public to announce these things and to get it out there and to encourage people. And having a meeting at 8 o'clock, or it would have been 8 o'clock if you guys were on time, on a Wednesday morning when 84% of the working public is at work, is also showing contempt for the public. I've asked you guys again and again and again, you pledge transparency, but you don't show transparency repeatedly. And again, if you come from a corporate background, it may be new to you, being accountable to the public and having this level of transparency that you're supposed to have. But again, ask at that MTA meeting, ask at your clerk meetings, ask at your treasurer meetings that you guys go to. How many townships and municipalities around here call special meetings with very little notice for their budget workshops? You're going to find that, again, most of them set them in December. This is, you know, it's just, I would also love to know how you figure your raises, right? What numbers are you using to figure your raises? You guys get raises every year. So I hope you answer my questions. Thank you.
Why don't you run for the board?
I can't. First of all, that's a very contemptuous question. We don't all have the ability to be on the board, but you wouldn't have me on here, would you? You'd get me out some way or another.
Township business.
Would you like me to kind of?
Yeah.
Okay. So, there's a few things we want to discuss. I think what I like to do, because, you know, I think you gotta get to the school, right? We give you a.
Yeah, but I'm good.
You're good?
I have plans, yep.
Okay, I don't know if there's any hard stops here.
Everything's in place, yep.
Okay, all right, thank you. You wanna go through the police stuff first and go through that? I thought that may be a good idea, because we may have a lot of things we wanna talk about, so make sure we cover that in detail.
Sure. You want me to start with the budget, or do you want to start with the upcoming village?
I'll leave it up to you to decide how you wanna present it to the board.
Okay. start with the budget. So for 26-27, we're still operating on the 2.0756 mills. And that'll be with 5 full-time employees. The current tax projection is $775,000. With some additional incomes, the total budget that is estimated is approximately $836,000.
Hey, Ryan, what, did you get us copies? Is it in here?
I put it on your desk.
I have more copies if you need it.
Jeez. I am, it's right here.
Which is our number, which is our number.
Yeah, this is thank you. Got it right. No problem. I didn't see it. I apologize.
The wages, the estimation, I had a typo on your copy. I think it was $512,000. It's actually $506,696.74. Employee Medicare, $7,500. Social Security, $32,000. The pension, the OBRA, One America, $6,700. Now the MERS, that's going to depend on if we do the pay down or not. I estimate with if we do the pay down, it'll be approximately $56,000. Also, health insurance.
Do you know what the number would be if we did pay it down? So the board understands the delta difference.
It's like $80,000. So it's about $30,000 difference. And then also, like we've talked about, our RHFB account for healthcare. Currently, as of today, has about $660,000 on it. So we were able to plan on using some of that for the healthcare costs. So you'll see a zero in there for right now. That's anticipating using approximately $72,000 out of the RHFB account. So if we don't, that would add an additional $72,000. Uniform cleaning, which is also uniform purchases, estimated $4,500. Auto expense about $15,000. Office supplies $3,500. Gasoline $30,000. The HRA copay $6,000. Legal fees $6,000. Our med law account is $1,500, which again, the med law account is kind of it's based on the blood draws that we get reimbursed for it, so we pay for it, but we get reimbursed. Sometimes not right away. Telephone $2,200. Printing and publishing $1,000. Radio maintenance and repair, which I actually use that line item for our computer repairs as well in the office, $2,500. Miscellaneous $3,500. Memberships and dues $16,000. Training $5,000, but that doesn't include the $7,000 that we get for CPE money from MPOL, so we're about $12,000 in training. Equipment $15,000. Small equipment, $1,500, and that leaves us with an additional $107,303.36 for future police purchases. I'm not 100% positive right now if we need a vehicle or not. The Durango that's next to be replaced, it's got a new engine, so as long as everything holds up with that, we should be probably good this year. But that's where some of that would go, obviously. So again, that's the total amount was $836,000, and that was this year with a 4% increase compared to last year. Any questions on that?
So you have a so you kind of lumped in your carryover of, let's see, that's 104, or I said 105.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I must have on a number I had changed this morning, so.
I mean, it's pretty big. It's bigger than I normally see.
Well, but that's based on paying down the MERS to 13%,
Yep.
13%, also $72,000 for the healthcare out of that RHFB account versus out of the budget, so that's where that money comes from. And again, obviously, we need to buy a vehicle that would be there, and we are due to upgrade our pistols this year as well, so which will obviously have trade in, so it's not going to be a huge huge costs or anything like that, but that's where some of that money would go.
So the healthcare, did you put that into revenue somewhere? You have it in carryover, right? So I just wanted to know where the balance is, right? You get property tax revenue.
I did not put it in the RHFB account, I put it in as revenue.
Did you understand? I mean, I always think of revenue versus expenditure, they should delta out, right?
Right.
So if we have carryover of the 107,
Right.
portion of that is from the account, right?
Right.
So it's in what line item is the healthcare year expenditure for healthcare? Is it, because this was zero, so you're not accounting for it at all then?
I wasn't accounting for this purpose, I didn't account for it. So obviously that 107 would go down to, 30,000 versus 107 if we didn't have the 72,000.
So I'm thinking we probably should put it into revenue and then put it into expenditures as a healthcare expenditure, right? So we track it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Does that make sense?
So that'll take our total estimated revenue up with an additional 72,000 and then, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so we should track it as where the money came from and what it covered
Okay.
in the budget.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because this implies zero. That's
Yeah.
not true, right?
Right.
Was the grant money for like the overtime, was that already all, did you already receive all of that?
So we, January is when we had to turn in our first, part of that, and we haven't got the check yet, but it should be on the way shortly. And then there'll be more for the next quarter as well. So that, none of that's, in here at all.
Yeah, because on your grant money, it says zero.
Yeah, we applied for OHSP money again, but I don't know what we're gonna do again, so that's why I didn't.
You don't want to count.
I don't want to count for
Right, you
something
don't want to
that's
assume
not.
that grant.
So again,
Yes,
what was the raise? I'm sorry.
I did 4%.
And that's based off of,
Well, the assessment went up 5%. So that was.
so property taxes went up, okay, so revenue from property taxes went up X.
Yeah.
You're using it, any benchmarking compared to other places?
I provide that data, every time, and it seems like it's constant. But yeah, as far as the numbers, it's all relative. Everybody's fairly similar in wages as far as us compared to Dryden, compared to the county. And again, the only one that's not even close is me. So everybody else is very, very close, and that's where we're at with that.
You're saying as far as deputies and officers, but as far as chiefs?
As far as chiefs and command staff, yes, I'm very, very low.
We should do something about that. Because that, our chief is lower than everyone.
Yeah, what's he, the bad guy? So, we should look at benchmarking data, obviously. I would compare yourself to townships versus counties or state, right? And I don't know what the data is, I'm not a subject matter expert in police compensation, so I only say data-driven decisions, right? So,
Right, and MML also puts out a wage study, through all their municipalities that have, MML, you're able to provide that data. Unfortunately, our subscription, we don't pay the extra $2,500 a year, so I'm not able to get it, so. But I do have local area, comparisons.
If you have that data, I mean, maybe you've already shared it once, probably a good idea to share it again, so we have that, so we, I mean, you guys.
And the whole package. I keep saying it, I know I keep saying it, but, you know, like I saw the item about, HRA, health insurance copay. Is that a part of that?
Yeah, so, basically.
Like, there's a lot of pieces to
Basically,
the puzzle, right?
that HRA, what that money goes for is, the employee, it's a $3,000 deductible, but that HRA account covers $1,500, so essentially, the most.
Yeah, there's
comes
just
out
a lot
pocket
of
is
pieces to
15.
it.
Oh,
So
for sure.
It
for
would
sure.
be, when comparing, I think it's really important that we have all the pieces.
Yeah.
So it's not just the
Well, I have some contracts.
hourly rate or something like that. So I totally agree that it should be, that we should be fair and if not better, we should be good. We should be appreciating and making sure that we keep our good staff. I have no problem with that. But I just would like to see the whole package. For all the.
Yeah.
This was. But I think it's this.
So again, just another comment, the revenue, the tax revenue is an estimate as well, right? So, I know, yeah,
And that's based on, for the 2026 tax. The village will be on August.
7.5.
yeah, this
After
could,
2.07.
this could change.
Right. Yeah.
So, I don't have any other questions from my perspective. It's good discussion. Probably, if I could huddle up with you maybe and then update the numbers.
Yeah, absolutely, I'll add that as a, expenditure.
Okay, all right.
Okay, let's go to the fire department.
Well, wait a minute, sorry, can we talk about the millage proposal as well? I want to talk about, actually with the police, I want to talk about three things. I want to talk about the budget, I want to talk about MERS, and I want to talk about the millage proposal and what your plan is with recommendations to the board in terms of funding, what your plan is and the recommendations.
Yeah,
So,
so
okay,
Yeah.
if we want to go to merge next, I totally think that it would be a great idea to use some of the fund balance to pay down that deficit that we have. It's only going to grow, and I think it would be good to knock some of that down, because 20% or 24% out of the budget really eats up a lot of it. So if we can get that down to where it's more manageable at 13%, I think that would be very beneficial for us in the long run.
So just to kind of look at some of the numbers, and I think we've talked about this, I think we talked about this in December, the last, at our budget amendment discussion, right? So when we look at everyone currently that will receive MERS and for people that are currently receiving MERS, right? And based on the funding that we have, we are, and I think we mentioned this before, we are at 77% funded, which, so if you look at where we're at today, it's like $2,084,137. Just basic algebra, basic math. To be 100% funded, we'd have to be at $22.7 billion. So it's a shortfall of $616,000. Now, I also did the breakdown relative to each of the individual participants in terms of what percent of the liability is attributed to that individual. And these numbers are coming from MERS, so I mean, it wasn't something I created. So if I broke it down between police and fire, because Maggie is a part of the fire department, the police portion would be $559,000, and the fire would be $56,000. And those are rough numbers. Okay. So, again, this is a workshop, so what I want to make sure is you guys understand the data, you understand where we're at. And I think the last last time we spoke, my recommendation was, I'm not a dead person, so my DNA is not wired to have owe anybody anything, so I'm not like your typical person, so I apologize for that. But so I see debt, I see we owe, we need to be whole. And I'm not too proud to say there's some things I don't understand when it comes to this type of investment vehicle, things like that. So I don't know what it means if we're currently underfunded, we're at 77%. If we went to 90% versus 100%, you still have to pay more out of your budget. I don't know. There's so many, I don't know, right? And I plan on having another discussion with MERS on it and ask more pointed questions. But it's like, so if we funded 90%, and let's say the market is very robust over the next 5 to 10 years, hypothetical, right? We don't know, but maybe we can recover that 10% through this market gains. I don't know.
If it continues on, we have to fund it.
That would be the negative, right?
Investments.
If we don't, but we could also fully fund it at 100%, and 5 years later be still underwater because we're at the mercy of the people who do the investing.
Right.
And it's not only the investments, it goes up your life expectancy, how many people are drawing. I mean, there's multiple factors, and when you have the conversation with MERS, it's not positive what you get out of it. I mean, it's because they can't give you a straight answer. You know, like the county put $2 million into theirs, and they might have to do it again. You know, I mean, it's just there's no guarantees.
It would definitely help though.
Absolutely.
Budget aspect.
I do believe we need to put some money into this to lower our liability. I think that's a positive thing.
I agree.
$616,000 is a significant amount of money. And like I recommended, we break it down by fire and police because of the two individual operations. And I kind of look at it as the police being the most of it should contribute, maybe half of it, maybe the general fund can pick up the other half. We have funds to cover it. It's not like we're not in a bad position like some townships. So I guess, again, this is a work session. This is where we have open dialogue and have Q&A. So I'm going to pause and listen to the questions and comments.
Okay, because you know my feelings on MERS.
No, your feelings are yours.
There's not much we can change about that.
So then I guess, again, this is a work session. Maybe reflect upon the numbers. Ask me questions as well if you have Q&A. But again, at some point, I'd like to either first, second quarter of this year, like calendar year quarter, not fiscal year, but I'd like to make a decision on what we're going to do so that we can adequately fund it. And then if we do it before the end of the fiscal year, we may be able to address your budget constraints relative to 24%, right? Correct. So that's all I have on that topic.
Okay, the next thing will be our police millage is going to go on the ballot for August. Currently, our millage rate is 2.056. That's because of head leave and all the rollback. Our last millage we did was a 10-year millage, and obviously this year the estimated tax revenue, taxable value was $775,000. If we were to raise it to 2.25 on today's or 2026's taxable value, that'd bring in $840,000. 2.5 mils would be $933,000. And 2.7 mils would be a little over $1 million. Currently, right now, the 2.0756 and being fully funded by police millage, we're pretty low. Obviously, staffing, we have 5 full-time, and as you see with the budget this year, if we weren't to have the ability to pay the health care and pay get the MERS paid down a little bit, we wouldn't be able to, based on the current budget, we wouldn't be able to afford a vehicle with 5 full-time. the other issue is that we probably need more people than less people. Some of the reasons for an increase would be, to increase staffing, which is an officer safety issue, which is a liability thing for the township as well. Assist with response times, the increasing cost, I can't control, you can't control, but unfortunately, everything is just through the roof. It helped us meet the demands of the community, doing all kinds of community events. We're trying to do more with less, and I think that's not just us, but that's everybody. Currently now, in the last 2 years, we've done more training in the last couple of years, and there was years where there wasn't nearly as much training. Now we're required with our continued professional education credits, which I think is a good thing, but it's also, I have to fill a schedule as well, so we're doing the best we can. The community's not getting any smaller. I'm not saying, we're, Metro Detroit by any means, but it's not getting smaller. And then our calls for service, which, sometimes it's property checks, business checks. It's not, I'm not saying it's homicides and things like that all the time, but, our call volume is going up. So I would like to at least do some type of an increase. Well, it'd be up to the voters, obviously. Depends on what kind of police department they want to have as well. So,
Can we make it 2 different votes?
We would have to talk to the attorney on that. I don't know how that would work. I think we can.
I sent him just what we have now,
Okay.
and then, whatever the board feels for, for an addition. I
Right.
think he did say that we could do 2 proposals.
Because we are one of there's not many agencies or police departments that fully operate on a millage. A lot of them, have a general fund that's where a lot of their budget comes from, and they do millages for the supplemental. Dryden, they're like us, they do that as well. Like the sheriff's office, they have a general budget, and then the millage is on top of Kentwood. There's a lot of places that do it differently, where it's not fully on the village. And the thing is I do think if we do keep it the same, I think that we're going to lose the next retiree. I think we're not going to be able to replace them. It's just not going to be possible. We're not going to be able to buy vehicles. So, there's that.
I got questions.
That's all right. I got answers. Come on. Shoot them what?
So I heard, I guess things that I want to understand was, so you want to grow your force, right? And if I was a taxpayer, I'd want to clearly understand, what are your objectives? What are you going to do with the additional? Are you going to put a resource officer that we currently don't have, that we're paying for through the law amendments, right? I think the thing that we have to communicate, if we're going to increase somebody's taxes, what are we going to do? It's a view worth decline kind of thing, right? If Dave's going to pay more on taxes, he's going to say, okay. And this is at a time I get a lot of people complaining about their taxes are too much, right? They don't want to pay more, they want to pay less, right? But I'm like the rest of the people here, we want to make sure we have good officers, well-trained, and compensated appropriately for the skills they offer the community, right? So, and I want you to have the tools to be able to necessarily do that as well. You want to increase your staff, and it's, as a taxpayer, I want to understand why.
So ideally what I would do is I would have 2 more officers, and that would be a split shift. So they would probably be a supervisor, so they would be able to supervise the day shift and part of the night shift as well. Also, what that would be able to do is they would be able to, when there's training days or when there's time off, that split car would be able to be adjusted, days or nights. So I wouldn't have to rely on part-time as much. We have 5 part-time right now, and I love them all to death. One of them happens to be one of my best friends. But that person, has a full-time job, not in law enforcement, and like right now, we have 2 of them that are in Florida for 3 weeks. And I can't make them work, you know. When someone's full-time, it's a lot easier to be able they're here, you know, that's what they're here to do is work, you know, for us. And again, I'm not trying to eliminate all part-time, but just relying on part-time, that was a thing in the past. I mean, when I started out in law enforcement, I worked a part-time job. I mean, a lot of people did it, but you know, I think Chief Brady here can attest to it. The younger generation, it's different. At the sheriff's office, I'm sure, you know, they don't have guys banging on the door to get that overtime like they used to. I don't understand it, but it's just how it is.
You've mentioned before that your part-timers, it's different now than it was in years prior because of all the stipulations that the state's imposed.
There is, and that's like, you know, even if you're a part-time officer, they still have to do all the training. You know, they still have to, you know, also to hire them, you have to, even if you know who they are and you know, you work next door to them or whatever, they still have to fill out the 16-page background. They still have to, I mean, there's things that all have to be done that in the past they didn't have to do. Not that you didn't do a background, but there's just more to it. So it's just not as enticing for people who work part-time jobs.
Is there other departments that don't allow part-time work? Like, I know in the fire department, like, some of your people, you know, have full-time fire department jobs, but they're not allowed to work in other.
So there were departments that were like that. A lot of times now, in their contracts, they have to have approval from the chief, and they do allow it, but there are some that don't. But again, you know, it's not like we have people banging on the door, beating the door down to come work a part-time job. And yeah, again, I love our part-time people, and I'm not trying to eliminate them completely, but to be able to rely on them, it's kind of tough sometimes.
So if you went with 2 additional full-time officers, what millage rate is required to properly budget a staff like that with all the equipment and training and everything?
2.5 would be where it would be at to do something like that.
So you're gonna go from 2 to 2.5 basically.
Yeah. So we have them.
Can you maintain that staff long term? Based on past, I know you can't project these.
Exactly.
If I could see the future, I would be sitting here, I'd be probably
Right.
an island somewhere.
You know, at some point this has to end, you know, as far as these, you know, the cost of everything, you know, and like healthcare and everything. I mean, but over the past, from 2019 to now, what are we up, you know, 174%? I mean, it's just, I don't know, where does it end? So I'd love to tell you with 100% certainty, yes. I think I can, but yeah. And the other thing too, if we went to 2.5, you know, then you gotta remember too, we'll get the Headley at some point, you know, with the rollbacks and everything. So it might be more wise to do 2.7, or 2.6, but we'd have to definitely really look into that. Dryden right now, and again, they have a different taxable value. I'm not trying to compare everybody, but they're at 2.7 mils.
Dryden's good compared.
Right. Their taxable value is a little bit different though. I don't know exactly how much, but I think it is a little bit. Right. There's a little bit less, yeah.
We buy more commercial versus.
Right, and that's the other thing too, you know, at 2.5, if, you know, we get some more growth continues on, I mean, that's obviously gonna be beneficial as well.
So the flip side of the coin is this: what if as a board we said we really don't want to hire more officers, we want to maintain the same staffing, but you still have to deal with the cost of the operation. What are you looking at? Obviously you're not going to ask for a renewal of the current rate. You're saying I need more money to buy vehicles, right? Because you can't. I mean, big example, right? You're talking about using money from the healthcare to cover your healthcare rate.
Right.
That isn't forever.
Exactly.
So that's going to stop after maybe 3 years. So you're still going to be back in 3 years with the same constraints.
Right.
So I guess my view is, what do you really have? I mean, if you stay with your current staffing, what do you need? You know?
Yeah. currently, like we did it today, it'd be at least 2.25, but again, like I said, we're gonna have rollbacks and stuff too, so, it would be more than 2.056 for sure, to keep 5.
Okay.
And that's, again, strictly if we're gonna strictly operate off of a village. Yeah.
So I'll summarize just based on what I've heard, which is we're looking at a millage increase just to keep the existing organization funded and operating.
Unless we take out of the general fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, so I'm looking at the current budget we have that I laid out, right, that you guys have seen. Again, we're in a work session discussing where the money's go, but I can tell you right now that if in an election year, given the legal fees we pay, given all the other things that we pay out, our health care, everything, there's not a lot of money left over. I'll give you an example. And this Dave will tell you this is not always the case, but like I talked about the roads, right? So to get 10,000 tons of gravel right now, he doesn't know if we'll get it out of the river pit, right? If we can't, we gotta buy it commercially. It's $200,000. Whereas in the past, we paid maybe 110.
Right.
So you start looking at all the costs. We have an election this year, right, which has early voting. Our budget this year is around $30,000 for elections. Last year we had $2,000. So in a $30,000 election, like the presidential, will be a big hit that we cover. And some of it's reimbursable, but essentially there's not. And then again, we rely on the cell towers for a lot of our costs, but over the past couple of years we've seen less revenue because some are leaving. You got mergers, Sprint and T-Mobile merged, and we lost $25,000 of revenue there. So I don't think we have a substantial amount of cash unless we make some changes, right?
We've always operated off the village. That's how this department's ran from day one. I'm not saying that it can't be done. It's just, it'll be up to the voters to decide. But I don't think that it's practical or possible to maintain at 2.0756 with the current. When people call, they want the police, right? We get people that complain that we don't have someone sitting at the desk after 4 o'clock. When they call, they want to talk to us. And it's just
Understand.
We do the best we can.
So what's the timeline? So what do we have to have? What do we have to make a decision?
April is the deadline for language proposal. The end of April, April 28th, for August.
So it means we have 2 board meetings between now and then to put the verbiage together, have more discussion, and then
Send it to the attorney too.
yes. So we need to make a decision on what we're going to do. Whether we grow the force and incur, bring in more revenue, or maintain what we have, which is still going to require more revenue.
Right.
Okay. Is there any way to get a resource officer at Murphy?
Yeah, I'm sure we can work something out. But again,
That'd be a huge selling point, I would think, for the community.
we gotta make sure we have
Well,
to.
that's gonna require a lot of communication because that, I feel like they already voted on that with the Lapeer County law. And, that's not the way the money was chosen to be spent, so I think that's a big miscommunication that's happening, but we could communicate it. I'm not saying that we couldn't communicate it, we can. And, Cameron's gonna try to be out there in the mornings, so. They do a good job being there for us, or for Murphy, but it would have to be clearly communicated that.
That's why I said, I agree with you, Tracy. Whatever we do, we have to have a clear understanding of what are we gonna get for our money, right? Not what ifs. We have to clearly say, here's what the money's for, right? Transparency, just tell them, right? So, next steps. What do we do with this one, Dave? I mean, we're constrained with time, we have 2 board meetings, because we gotta take it to talk about it at the board, right? What's the next steps? I mean,
Big Jerry Fisher. I mean, like I said, I already sent him the current ballot language. He just has to send it back to me, what is.
And I'm not sure how much he has to change, so I have all the past ones, and
Yeah,
the
that's what I
verbiage is like the
Yeah.
exact same, so.
And then, you know, one for injuries. That one, he doesn't have, but we can get it.
what can again, this is a work session, we don't make motions, we don't make decisions, we don't vote on anything. Can I ask the board what their thoughts are? I mean, I've done a lot of talking, because I did a lot of talking. So,
A lot of listening.
so I would like to know what people think, because if we're, I know no one likes new taxes or higher taxes, I get it, okay? But people will pay more if the services justify the cost, right? Okay, and then for the right things, for the money, right? So, I guess I'd like to know what everybody thinks about what Ryan just shared relative to his 2 visions of the future.
I think they ought to put it on there twice.
Like the renewal,
Right.
and then one with the increase,
And the increase.
which would be different.
See what the people want.
And then can you also add the language of what you receive for each of those? Like the purpose of the increase, what?
And the second one, I would say, would be
Right,
for 2
is it, can you
additional.
put that right on there, or does that have to be like through?
I think they did that in the past, looking back in the history of I think in the 90s, they did that, for an additional officers, because back then they didn't even have as many, I mean, we've had as many as what, 7 full time?
Yeah.
In the early 2000s?
Yep.
So now we have 5, and possibly losing 1 due to retirement, so then that would be 4.
Yeah, he's mentioned,
Right.
next winter,
So,
which, well, yeah.
Can somebody help, what's renewal mean? Is that 2.2, or is that just?
No, it's 2.0756.
Whatever the millage is
Today.
would be
Yeah.
renewed for tomorrow.
And so, in the year of peddling and everything, it'll be down to, 2.023, or, I mean, it'll continuously go down.
the original one in 2016 was 2.17
Current.
is what we renewed it for. So it's went down 0.10, or, that currently that's what we're at.
So did I,
But there's new building going on.
Right.
That raises. that.
Right.
Yes, yeah, our taxable value.
Continuously going up, yeah.
Which is what supported the increase in healthcare and everything else.
I don't
Like,
think
it's
people
going up.
understood when he said a policeman for the pier. We got nothing,
Right.
and that's a big tax bill on
It is.
Because not everybody has a police department like we do, so we're,
I mean, we support it, I think we want to, I think the consensus is we definitely want to maintain that. I
Correct.
think that's what Metamora has always supported.
because I know like counties or townships like Elba, they pay for it. They also pay for law, and they also pay for having, I think 1 or 2 officers for that township.
Oh, it's got 3.
3.
Four.
Oregon pays for an additional 2, correct? Oh,
They had 3 of these dropped.
Oh,
Now they're
Do you know what the costs are for that?
okay.
Just curious.
What?
You know what they pay for that, for 1 officer? Do you?
It's like over 100 grand.
It's about 130 grand, 140 grand, I think. Don't quote me on that, but that's for wages, uniforms, fuel, maybe not fuel, that might be billed, but patrol cars, all that.
And their benefits as well.
And, yeah, events and all that. Okay.
So,
Okay, don't quote me on that, because I could be off, but I know it's well over 100 grand.
Well, no, I talked to the treasurer of Oakland Township, and they pay a lot more than that for Oakland County Sheriff's support.
Well, you go south of Davis Lake Road, that's where all the money is, they pay top dollar for everything.
Top dollar.
Yeah, I know I mentioned it at one of the last meetings, Oxford Township for their police, it's 4.25 mils.
And you go down there, population like them townships are, 80, 90,000 people, that's bigger than our county in one township.
Yeah, Washington Township just contracted with
Crazy.
Macomb County Sheriff's Office, and they're getting 19 deputies there. They've got their own little substation right there.
36 square miles, I got 80, 90,000 people living there, where we got that well, the whole county.
Yeah, right.
Right.
90,000-ish.
Yeah, we're just under 5.
Right.
In our last census.
Good.
So food for thought.
Are we done with the police?
We are done with the police.
Okay, let's go to fire.
No, we're gonna discuss it later. Good morning. So this is what, do you guys have copies of what you guys need for the fire station? You guys have all that?
I got that from, Stephanie
Stuff?
yesterday.
So, this is what we are proposing here. These are rough numbers, right, estimates? And what we're looking at for property tax is about $331,500. We're gonna have $55,000 brought in on grant money. And that grant money is from, one of the, grants that CAP wrote, the Safer Grant. And that's gonna pay for, Derek's salary, cancer screening that will start this year for the department, which they will do that mobile, they'll come here and do it. And then if we have to put people through fire school, anything like that, we'll get money for that as well. So that's about another $55,000 there. We're figuring to get about $4,500 in interest from our accounts. We budgeted for $5,000 in emergency services, and that's our billing for out of township residents that we bill for. Last year, Steph and Kat did an excellent job with the billing part, and they brought in, I think about 14, 15 grand, 19 grand just in billing. So that's more than we've ever brought in before. A lot of times that's more than what we bring in 2 or 3 years, honestly. So they did a really good job of keeping on top of that. So that brings us to about $396,614. In that money, it does not include about, I think we're going to be about $36,000 in rollover. Is what I'm figuring from last year. And then we can discuss what we want to do with that money, whether throw it into one of our accounts or put it back in either into future equipment or whatever. Scott, what's your recommendation on that? If that's what we have about $35K, roll into the budget or throw it into an account with some of our other money, or
So you're talking about for the next fiscal year, you estimated 40 grand will be,
about 35, I think.
okay. Well, I mean, I just keep it in your budget, we'll address it, because it could be unexpected expenses that you may have. I just lump it under your future truck purchases.
Going through the other line items on here, I'm going to touch on a couple of things that we've changed. Really about the only thing we did is we went over quite a bit on our equipment and truck repair and maintenance and repair. So we added 5 grand both to each of them to bring them up to about 15 grand. Fleet's getting a little bit older, costing a little bit more to maintain it. So we had, some money there. Pension overall, that stuff, we kind of figured that in with the raises and things like that. $8,000 going to MERS, that's still paid for Maggie, right? So that will be, probably credit to you somehow, right? We left, so we left $20,000 into our truck payment, even though right now we don't have a payment. We still have $20,000 left in there, right?
You paid off the truck last year.
Yeah, the truck is left off, it's paid off.
Yeah.
But, so that money's there, anticipating something coming up hopefully. Any questions on anything on that front page? If not, I'll jump into more or less the payroll and wages and things like that, and compensation part of it. So basically what I did off of, for my, for our wages and salaries and things like that, is I went off the comparables that I use, is Hadley and Dryden. We're all pretty much the same. Population-wise, call volume-wise, and kind of like Ryan, myself, I am far underpaid for what I do compared to what the other chiefs do. And, you know, my base pay compared to Dryden's base pay, the chief over there makes $8,000 more a year than I make. The chief in Hadley makes about $7,000 more a year than I make. Doug has always been about the top paid assistant chief in the county, and he's worth every penny of it. He's comparable with Dryden, but he's paid more than Hadley. But he's right in the ballpark of where he should be. Our captain was way underpaid, so I did bump his pay up, and again using the comparables, right? And the same with our lieutenant and our office staff. There's nobody in this job that gets paid as a first responder, right? There's nobody that gets paid for what they do. Firemen, policemen, EMT, it doesn't matter. We don't get reimbursed for what we do. Stuff we take home, what we deal with, there's nobody that gets reimbursed. That's a conversation that I've had with Kat and Steph and some of my employees over there. Is I can't pay you what you guys are worth. You know, we can't do it. So everybody over there is worth a lot more than what they make. You know, it's a part-time job, volunteer paid on call, so it's tough. But again, using the comparables, again, that's where I did my pay raises, and you know, in a few of them, you're going to see where there's what I'm projecting or asking for is a jump in some of their pays, because I'm trying to keep them compatible and comparable to what we have for our surrounding areas. And again, it's Dryden Hadley, it's not Oxford, it's not Oakland County. We can't compare with that. We can't compete with that. So what? So if you look at the pay rate, and I'm just going to go down my list for you guys, is the chief hourly rate. I went from $27.17 to $28. Base salary I went from $860 to $1,000. Assistant chief I went from $25.85 hourly to $26.50, and I bumped his pay up from $820 to $900 a month. EMS coordinator, they get a monthly salary, and I bumped that up $25 to $200 a month. The lieutenants I both bumped up from $285 to $310 a month, and the captain I bumped up from $305 to $400 a month. The EMS coordinator, the lieutenant, and the captain, both of them only get a monthly salary. And then they're paid their hourly rate as far as like what the firefighter gets paid for their calls and stuff like that. Their hourly rate isn't bumped up like Doug's and mine is. So that.
If I remember correctly, you and Doug haven't had a raise in quite a few years, right?
Well, not much of one. Our hourly's bumped up a little bit, but me and Doug went for a long time not taking any raise at all.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
And reflected that back onto what we would give, you know, the firefighters and, you know, the office help and things like that. And, you know, even, like I said, even the raises that I'm proposing, it isn't enough, you know. For these guys to come make $20 an hour, run into a burning house and do the shit they do and the stuff they see, you know what I mean? It should be $40, $50 an hour minimum, but we can't do that. And the lieutenant, there's 2 lieutenants on here. I only have one filled, so the other one isn't filled right now. And then for Cat and Steph, again going off of what Dryden and Hadley pay their office staff. This raise is going to put them on the lower end of it, kind of like towards the middle. And basically, what I'm proposing is to give them up to, Cat would go from 21.41 to 23.41, and Stephanie would go from 19 to 21. That puts them a little bit lower than what the Dryden, that puts them a little bit higher than what the Dryden office staff makes, but Dryden's only a secretary. They're not EMS or fire training or nothing like that, where these 2 are. And it puts them lower than what the Hadley office lady makes. She's up closer to like $30 an hour for what she does. So that's where I get my dollars from in the raises that I'm proposing. What I also did is bumped up our fire's pay. Firefighters I bumped up from 18. So if you're only fire or only EMS, meaning you're not cross-trained, it's $20 an hour. If you are cross-trained where you're fire and EMS both, it's 22. And again, that's a little bit higher than what Hadley is. And Hadley is about $19 across the board. And Dryden's up 20. Dryden's up at 20.50 an hour for their firefighters. So we're right in line with where they're at. Work detail, I bumped up $2 an hour to 16. That's pretty much it for the compensation of the salary part of it. Sue, if you have it right there, what am I operating off of right now? Is it like 0.89?
I think it went, I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's 0.88 with the.
Hadley and all that.
I can get that.
I just wanted,
From what
I mean, I have it next door, I just don't have it with me.
Yeah.
So just, Hadley's going after a 1.5 and they're going up after, that's a 5-year millage.
Yeah, yours is 0.887.
So yeah, so Hadley's at either I think a 1.5 right now, and then their millage is up next year. They're going after a 1.5 or a 2.0, and then they're going after either a 2.0 or a 2.5. They're going to go up another 0.5% in 5 more years. So they're going to be so much. We're going to have to do something sooner or later, no different than what the boat Ryan's in, right? Because at 0.88, you can't operate on that for long. I can't even buy a truck, you know, and. I was telling Scott earlier today, I looked at a truck that was a 2025 that I had my truck committee look at that we wanted to maybe look into purchasing. And they just called me back actually. They bought that last year at $1.2 million. And right now they have it for $985, the best offer, right? And it's a brand new truck with like 2,000 miles on it. My one engine over there that I bought back in 2004, I paid $390,000 for that truck. So go buy that truck new right now, with like a 2-year to 3-year wait, that's $1.4 million over there for one truck.
Right. It's so expensive.
And nobody wants to go after and raise taxes, but you know what? I get the money from somewhere, you know? And I don't know. I mean, my village is going to be up, I think, what, 3 years? I think we did like
31.
31? And then by the time I get there with the Hadley rollback, where am I going to be at in 31? I'm going to be down to a 0.7. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I do a renewal on 0.7,
Yeah, but it's gonna go up every year.
The taxable value.
yeah, maybe. Should, right? Hopefully. But as the taxable value is going up, the Hadley's still rolling my money's back. You know? So you don't get that far ahead.
Right.
And me and Dave talk about this quite often. I mean, I don't have a problem with training, we train at least twice a month, right? So we do our training, and we do a good job of keeping up on things, and what Chief Davis does next door, but, you know, the stipulations and the stuff that the state wants the paid and call and the volunteer departments to do, I mean, it's like they're trying to close the doors and push in full-time people, and eventually, that's where we're gonna be. We are gonna have to pay people to be here, at least daytime, right? We're gonna have to staff our station with 2-3 people, and we're gonna have to pay them to do it. That's where we're gonna get, because we don't get the people. Even though Derek has been busting his butt out trying to recruit and get things up, and, you know, we might have a couple people that he's gonna bring on. Right now, we have one to put through the fire academy, but we don't have people kicking through the door. And it's not here, it's nationwide. You go online and you read, everybody has issues with recruiting and getting volunteer or, you know, or paid on call people. People don't wanna do it. You know?
Especially with all the state mandates.
It's tough, it makes it tough.
Yeah.
And, you know, you try to keep people motivated over there, and the state wants you to do more, and it's like do more with less, right? You can't survive that, you can't do it. And, you know, a lot of this generation, these people, the kids growing up.
When I first got on, there was no school.
Right. Yeah.
I went to the first school.
Yeah. And that was like a college class, and it's like 9 months long. They got homework and they're meeting on weekends and, you know, buddying up to do their work and all that stuff. But, you know, even on the law enforcement side, you know, a lot of the kids, we don't have, like back then they have, you know, parties during the summertime and on weekends. Kids aren't out partying, they're at home with mom and dad, and they're, you know, doing their, whatever they're doing in mom and dad's basement playing video games. They're not out wanting to be cops and firemen and EMTs and all that stuff, so, you know, to keep that roster full and maintain a full roster, which we haven't had in a long time, it's hard to maintain what we have.
That ed tech, Traci and I were just talking about that they're having that there. It'd be, I wonder if we could incorporate some of those kids here, you know, like a mentor or
Can Derek get involved in that?
I just talked to Derek about that, and they're looking for departments to host like trainings and all that stuff. And he asked me if we could do it here, and I said, yeah, for sure we can do it here. And even if we keep the people motivated and keep them in the fire service, even if we don't benefit from it, hopefully some other department will, you know? So,
If we do technically benefit, we get another Hadley firefighter, they're at all our fires anyway, so even though they're not ours,
yeah.
they're ours, you know? It's, our mutual aid, right?
And we are involved with, we have at least 2-3 people involved in the Explorer program. And that's for the younger kids, aren't, you know, and they travel around to a different department. I think between Metamora Hadley, Elbow up here, I think there's 4 or 5 different departments involved in it. And monthly they travel around to different departments, have their own little meeting and their own little training and, you know, a couple of that stuff. Stephanie next door and Assistant Chief Randblatt and Captain Sully, they're pretty much involved in that. They go to all their meetings and trainings and all that stuff. And I think we just had it here Thursday night. We had the Explorer meeting down here. So. But I rambled on enough. Any questions for me or anything on the budget that I presented for the 26-27?
Do you want us to explain what's with the grant money right now, or? Because we put it in the wrong buckets technically, but we had to create GL numbers for the new buckets, according to the grant, but, we didn't have all that information broken down yet. So we took the 54,000 in grant money and split it between wages and, training on the list that you guys have. But it will actually be split out into exactly what the grant was.
I kind of talked about that, about the cancer screening and the payroll and all that stuff, but it all comes out of that grant.
So what I think we should do is maybe you, me, and Sue huddle up, because Sue does the payroll, and she's constrained by some of the payroll software, right, what she can and cannot do, so I want to make sure. I created GL numbers for traceability purposes, right? I just got to make sure that Sue can actually use the GL numbers in her software, because I know we talked about it before, so why don't we get together at some point and have a conversation about next steps on that one, because I want to make sure it's some sort of form of traceability in the grant money so that if we get audited, we can clearly.
There, for example, I do have that one.
So, there's two other things from a budget standpoint. We've talked about fire trucks a lot. You and I talked about fire trucks a lot. I think at some point, again, this is a workshop. I think we have to, as a board, come up with some strategy around allocating funds in an account every year. Right? If the fire has, at the end of the year, they have carryover of whatever 30,000, we should take 15 of that and put it into a GL number that says future truck purchases. And maybe we can, with the general fund, assuming we have carryover as well, is that we match that so that over the next 10 years, maybe we won't have $1.2 million, but maybe we'll have $500,000 sitting there, and it will ease the burden of a future purchase. So again, thinking in terms of, I'd rather have cash to pay for something over time than to go to the taxpayers and say, hey, I need three villages over the next 4 years to buy new trucks. So
We talked before too, sorry to interrupt you, about having
I don't think.
like a list of what equipment do we have, when is it outdating, so that we can have kind of a plan of what do we need.
So that is done.
Okay.
Because we talked about that maybe 6 months ago, is clearly lay out the equipment, the age of the equipment.
Yeah.
When is a recommended replacement time?
Right.
Because it all varies, because when we talk about, I don't know that stuff, right? I mean,
Right.
I think.
And like gloves are 10 grand and they expire, you know what I mean? Like,
With air pack.
yeah, those things, you have a lot of things that expire, so.
You know, most all that stuff I have budgeted for, and I've prepared, like our gear. Pretty much all of our gear has as of right now, which they're trying to change it, has a 10-year life, right? And that's like an NFPA standard.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that our gear is not any longer any good after 10 years, right? It's a national standard. They say that a truck, right? The trucks over there, the big trucks, 20 years, right? Is the NFPA recommendation or the standard for that. It doesn't mean that them trucks that are over 20 years that they're not any good and you can't use them, right? It's just a national standard that they go by. It's not a rule, it's just a standard that they put out. The gear, the air packs, things like that, I have money budgeted for that. I'm prepared to buy that stuff. But what I can't save for, but minimal, is $1.5 million truck, right? And we try, you know, we do a very good job of, and so is Chief Davis, of saving money and rolling over money, putting money away. But to get to that $1 million point where my budget's $317,000 a year, you know.
Johnny, are all the trucks made in the United States, or are they coming from Canada?
No, everything is made here.
Okay.
With the older trucks though too, the things, you can't find the parts.
Yeah, like our one engine that will be the next truck probably to get replaced. You know, we bought it back in '04, you know, for $390 grand. And we're getting electrical problems with it and having trouble finding parts for it and things like that as they break. Fortunately, right now, we don't really have any issues with it other than a little bit of electrical, but you know, there's gonna come a time where that truck breaks down and there's nothing I can do, or it's gonna cost me thousands of dollars to fix it. So
It's like a monopoly.
it is.
There's,
Well, I think we buy trucks wrong in this country, in the state. I think the state of Michigan should, if we pooled all those purchases from a state perspective and they said, hey, fire truck company, we're gonna give you 5,000 fire trucks, we want a 50% reduction in price, right?
Yeah.
If you had all that purchasing power, you have leverage. Versus everybody's cats and dogs. This fire department wants this one in. They have all the leverage.
Right.
Because everything's specialized, right?
Yeah.
You want to make it all common. I don't understand that part of it, so
I have a question about, so back to the MERS thing, as far as the fire department, and if they paid their portion, like, I know you're budgeting that, but I'm talking about like the past, the whatever estimate you have to help offset some of the costs. Does he have that monies to do that as well?
there's money for that, but again, we had to discuss how all that would come out, right? And would they still need to allocate $8,000 a year for if we get to the point where we're 100% funded, why would they have to put?
Well, they hopefully would give us a new rate as far as what her portion would be. That way they could budget correctly.
But it should be less, a lot less than $8,000, right? I'm surprised they had the secretaries making $30 an hour. What's the difference there? Is she only work 10 hours a week, or is she?
Yeah, well, her salary is yeah, she doesn't work a ton of hours per week. I think it's like 2 days a week. And I didn't figure, Stephanie actually figured out what her hourly was. And she said it was like almost $30 an hour.
But she's salary. She's not hourly.
So I just got the salary from Kurt. He didn't give me an hourly on her. So I'm assuming she's salary. I don't know, I didn't ask, but.
Did you say she's trained or not?
She is, but she doesn't, neither one of them. So Doris over there used to be here. I don't know if you guys remember Doris now, but she works over there. She's trained, but she doesn't respond.
Oh.
She's only like the secretary, yeah, like only office stuff. And the same with the Dryden lady over there, and that's just basic secretarial, no fire, no training, nothing like that. So. That's all I have.
Okay, let's pull up the building budget, 26-27 proposed. This is again a workshop, so it's a one-page document. You got it, Lee?
Yeah.
You're right, the bottom of your file. Again, I always say the same thing. I feel like it's that I should put an asterisk somewhere here. But again, everything's a projection. This is not, when you look at revenue under the building department, it's all an estimate. And if I were to look at trends relative to projected revenue, if you look at the center column, if you look at projected revenue, right, versus what we budgeted, it's less, right? And so again, this is not a profit center. Right? Dave would say it's not a profit center, so we're not looking at making money. It's just covered expenses. So, but we do bring in less revenue than our expenses, planned expenses in some respects, right? So the only question I would have to the board would be the building inspector, the inspectors, right? I don't know if there's a plan to address additional compensation for those guys. I think we just raised rates recently, didn't we, Dave, or something like that? I mean, so I assume that's taken care of for 26, 27. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
The administrative support within the building department. So raises, what I did was I did some research via the Google searches, right, relative to what's being proposed in the industry as a whole, and it varies. It varies, and again, this is average salary increases for the U.S. are going to be between 3.2 to 3.5. Merit budgets are somewhere around 3.2 and 3.5. Obviously, industries vary relative to raises. If you're in the financial services, energy, or high tech, raises are 3.7 plus. Healthcare services, retail, 2.9 to 3.3. We have new promotions or like that. Law enforcement, 3.8 is the average. Say postal workers, 1.3. This is just kind of a note. It says trends for 2026. Slowing growth, intense war for talent is receding, with overall dropping as employees fear job losses. Skill-based pay, companies are directing more of their budget towards high-demand skills, AI, specialized tech, rather than providing uniform increases. Inflation concerns, while inflation is cool, it remains a factor for 26. Compensation planning, this is some bullet items that were kind of interesting. So, that's the data that I use, and again, this is a workshop. This is not me saying this is what we should do or not, so.
He's doing 3%, right?
Well, that's what I did. It's less than what they're saying, but it's more in line with what we've done in the past in that
not saying that what's what we should do, I'm just saying that's what's been done in the past and what the data that I found. Let me see. As far as the building goes, again, building inspector estimate 25. Secretary, that's a split between. She has two tasks. She runs the building department, and she's also my deputy treasurer. So her compensation is split between the two. Zoning inspections, I just basically increased that a little bit because it did show increases from last year, so I just went to $1.1300, which is a slight increase from the prior budget year. The rest of it is pretty much comparable in terms of Social Security, Medicaid, pension, healthcare insurance. You can see that line item halfway down in the expenditures. We're estimating about a 10% increase in healthcare costs. Again, we don't have any data to support that, but it's kind of a swag at this point. It's probably in line with what we'll see across the country, but I don't see any need for computer tech, but there could be IT support needed. And then the wages for electrical inspectors, plumbing, mechanical are pretty much comparable to last year. So again, I don't know if there's any questions about the building department. That's again the initial worksheet for that one.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the general fund worksheet. So the first page is revenue. So revenue is up from last year to this year. Again, the inflation rate is 2.7, but using Kylie's estimate, which includes projected new construction, she's seeing a 4.4% increase from prior year. Now I don't think that takes into consideration veteran exemptions, which have gone up a lot over the past, since I've been here. It's gone up quite a bit.
I think we have close to 20 veterans.
So that's probably more than double. So since we've been here, and there's no recovery, that's lost revenue. They serve their country. They deserve the benefit of that.
Just a fact.
It's a fact, and then we as a township have to address the lack of revenue.
I think it's almost, I think it's over $1 million as far as taxable revenue for the ones we have here.
Taxable value lost.
Right.
Not revenue.
Oh, okay, okay.
So, okay. The county road commission allocation, I don't have that number yet. I think we'll get it later on this month. It's probably somewhere around 35,000, maybe even less. It's hard to say. Okay, penalties and penalties, interest tax. I have zero there, and the reason I put zero in there, I could put numbers in there, but that's a swag because I have no idea who's going to pay their taxes late, right? I would love it if everybody paid their taxes on time, but there's always that, and that creates additional revenue through the penalties that are collected applied to those people who pay late. So again, last year we made about $4,300 in penalties. I don't want to even put it in the budget. I could do that, but I think it'd be money that we think we're going to get. Administrative fee, that's going up by 2.7, so you can see that increase. State collections, that's just a kind of very basic personal account. Strange, but it's an estimate. It's fairly close. We do collect revenue for street lights. Right now, that's pretty much the same. Now, the ones that are highlighted kind of that yellow. So these are all related to planning activities.
We don't know.
I'm gonna go rogue this year, I'll be honest with you. I'm gonna apply no revenue, and we'll update the revenue as we make it. In the past, I've always put revenue in there, and then it just means that I'm thinking I'm gonna make this money, but in the past, I gave you a good example. Zoning applications, I planned $1,500 with zero. Engineering fees, 8,000, zero. And if I put the 8,000 there, then I'm thinking that I can go spend it.
Right.
Put it in that book.
I mean, we did do that, it just wasn't put, it's kind of hard, because like last year, 1 year was our biennial, so we charge each gravel pit $2,000 as to cover those costs of engineering. So that's where you got your
Well, if you look under special land use permits, you see that special land use permits, it's not highlighted yellow, that's where I put the biannual gravel operations, 8,000 in there, that's where I put that sewer. So that's where it's at, that's where it's been in the past, I think. So, franchise.
That's not everywhere.
No, every other.
Yeah, so that's, franchise fees, cable, that's money we receive, and I kind of broke that down where it comes from. Cell tower, 80 grand is an estimate. You see transfer affidavits, again, that's related to people who don't file that paperwork in time for their taxes, right? And if they don't do it, they get fined, so, that could be zero. You see state revenue sharing has gone down, it's actually decreased 1.2% from last year. So we're projected getting 404,000. Interest and CD interest will go down from prior years because interest rates are going down. I did reach out to Choice One to get an idea of some projected interest rates for our renewing CDs. I'm looking at 3.6 probably with the February renewals. In August he's expecting about 3.25. These are estimates, so which is lower than what I have now. I'm in anywhere between 4 and 3.95. Reimbursements, again, depends on what if we get any, so I got 1,000 there, miscellaneous revenue with 5,000 for that. And then land division, again, that's a swag. So I'm going to zero in for that. Okay, page 205, this is the breakdown of everything. So you got the trustees, again, I put in 3% based on the research I did. You guys can think about what that should be, so we can have a conversation, but that's what it is. Downstream effects relative to Medicare, Social Security, pension, everything regarding workshops, trustee mileage, that's all pretty much carry over the numbers. Service charge, that's typically a bank charge that we see. I'm putting no money in there because I'm kind of, frankly, I've been all over service charges this past year because I'm getting them all the time from Choice One, and I'm like, well, we're not paying them, and they reimburse it. So I'm kind of, it's not a lot, but still it adds up. So cleanup today, that Sue, we can have a conversation that will probably go down a little bit relative to compensation there. But that's for the health of cleanup day for people that come in and out of the hard work. Medicare, Social Security, and then pensions. We see we're at healthcare insurance. I think I got 34 grand in there. It shows a 1.2% increase. We don't have numbers yet for that. I don't know if we should increase that more, but that's kind of what you and I talked about, Sue. Insurance and bonds, we're at 60. The MNL premium, actually, we have a renewal that's 59,771. So 60 is probably quite accurate there. Postage, I reduced postage here a little bit because typically we've covered all the postage costs into one bucket. I'm breaking out mine from the townships for treasurers. I buy envelopes for mailing out receipts, sending out bills. I kind of want to keep it separate, kind of see where it lands. So I talked to Sue and we would create a postage GL under our treasurer, and we would keep track of that. So keep going down. Workman's comp, 20 grand. Printing and publishing is pretty much identical. Membership dues pretty much identical. DDA, I got to cut a check this year for basically $32,000. That's the bill we got for this year. And then Dave, your stuff is the same as everyone else's, and then you guys can talk about raises. If I jump down to clerk, this is dialogue, Sue, you and I can have a conversation. So historically, there's always been a full-time deputy clerk. We have not, as a board, or Sue has not identified a replacement for the prior full-time deputy clerk. We've been pretty much using part-time or temporary support there. I got rid of the salary. Since we're not going to hire anybody, probably won't happen this year. I'm just going to zero it out. unless you feel that we should. So I zeroed it out, and I took the funds there and I just put it into carryover. So it's not being spent in other areas, it just is gonna go into like a carryover budget or bucket. And then I increased the office help, which is where Madison comes out of and Jenny comes out of, so I increased that to cover that. So I don't know if you want to have any conversations about that, Sue, or not, but that's what I did there. That's leading to some of the decreases in Medicare, Social Security, pension. As you can see there, those are decreases from the prior year because there's no full-time deputy clerk. Let me see. Audit fees, that's pretty much close to what it is going to be. So that's page 2 of 5. Any questions on 2 of 5? Okay, go to 3 of 5. Again, you can see I added postage treasurer there. That's where I put 4,000 there for postage for the mailing of tax bills and receipts. Let me see. There's some reductions there for. I'm not going to be going pretty much anywhere this year for travel, so I got rid of some of the mileage there. Assessor is increases tied to inflation. That's where their numbers come from. The blue bucket there, that's the midterm elections. You can see last year to this year, you can see the increase. So wages, we're going to go from 1,500 to 20,000, and then the associated costs to run the election. So again,
That's for the 90s of
yep.
for those workers and things.
You got primary, and then you got the general elections too. So there's all that. Garbage pickup, you can see that one went up quite a bit. Sue's gonna try to get a tighter trailer for the trash day.
Yeah, let me see what the cost will be.
So we budgeted.
We've been arguing about that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so I'll let you guys take that one. So the website will be lower because we're not redoing the website this year. Office supply stays all the same. Snow removal is new. We've not tracked snow removal in the past. So we're going to start using that GL number to track the cost for snow removal. So we put money in for that. And this year there's been a lot of snow removal, as you guys can probably tell.
Yes.
A lot of salt as well.
Yeah, definitely salt too. Maintenance is the same along here. Telephones should go down. I expect telephone to go down because last year we installed phones. Because the year we installed phones, so we should expect that to go down. Electricity, I
can't stand them either.
Some people don't like change.
Electricity,
Saving us money.
I project that to go up. Heat, I'm going to keep that the same because we're not really spending that much yet on heat, but maybe we'll see some big bills this month with all that.
Electric was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It is.
So township property, this is kind of my bucket. I put the unallocated funds. So we're currently tracking about 48 grand there. Just letting you know what that is. And other things get charged to that too as well, but I kind of put the money in there. Let me see. Everything else is computer and supplies is gone down. I did reach out to our IT people to try to get a better idea if there's anything going on this year that they haven't communicated to us, like relative to server improvements or files, storage devices or whatever. But
We replaced quite a few, or upgraded, I guess, whatever their drives and the software. I don't know if we did everything.
we replaced 4 computers last year because of Windows 11. We had to do that because everything was old. We had to do that because we could no longer get Windows updates. So we did that, and then our few computers that they're maintaining the Windows 10 software, but we're okay with that. But there were a few cats and dogs. We put the video camera out by the blue box that's in, and that required some software and hardware in the server. Legal. So legal, are we spending that much money right now? We have the support in Lansing that we paid for, and then we have the cost of legal. It varies, but there are years we pay a lot, and there's years we don't pay enough. So
Especially when we were in trial with, or
last year on road maintenance, we went from 186,000, going down to 60. Talked to Gabe, these are estimates because we don't really have a bill, so about $9 grand for mowing, we got about 50 grand for tree removal in targeted areas, and then brush axe and we got tree removal twice. But so there's money allocated for all the areas there, so it's less than last year. Chlorine treatments, last year we spent almost 52,000. I got 62,000 in there. And again, it depends on how dry, how wet, and how many times we got the applications on it. And frankly, we do too, and we do a lot of targeted stuff. So, which is, gravel, and Dave and I talked about this, we typically, on a typical year, we get about 10,000 ton of gravel. And historically, we've always got it out of our own pit. And that's always been more affordable for us, but the $200,000 number is if we had to do commercial, we had to go outside of Woodbury County and find gravel. That's his estimate. So once we find out whether they can find gravel in the pit down here, if they can get gravel.
Which they'll find it.
Yeah. If they find
They
it.
always do.
Yes,
No.
no, not in Ribble.
They were running out
A different one, okay.
years ago. When I first took over, and we gravelled all the roads.
I think they are gonna adjust something where they're gonna do differently.
Yeah.
Ribble pit to try to see if there's more gravel there. I think
So again, I put in a lot of money there just so that it's clear whether we do that or not. If we get local gravel, it's gonna be probably, $50,000 to $70,000 less. So that'll be a positive, right? The rest of the stuff is more focused on planning. There are some base costs that aren't tied to the revenue that we're not accounting for. But so like the planning meetings, you can see my little formula off to the side. I kind of look at that as what we pay the chair of the meeting, and then we pay the members. There's 6 of them, and then we have 12 meetings. That's kind of where that number came from, the 60 grand. So our recording person is 15 grand. I have $1,500 sitting there. She gets $125 a meeting to do that task. Page 505, ZBA. Numbers there are pretty much tied to the attendance of the meeting. So there's 12 meetings a year, which normally there isn't. And then the planner, I put 15,000 in there because sometimes there are costs that we incur with planners that we can't recover through fees, right? They're just the random. If he shows up at a meeting or whatever, support or whatever, there's a cost that we have to pay there. So that's the proposed budget.
not much different than last year, except for gravel. 3% increase.
Any questions, any comments?
I like your explanations, thanks
Yeah.
for, it's really easy to read, I know you did it well, so I appreciate that. Yeah, it's really well done, sir.
Yes.
I can't think of anything else, Dave.
Okay, we need another motion.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That was a good session.